clean, beautiful. I don't use the word coal, I say, because it's got a little bit of a problem, public relations-wise, the word. So we call it clean, beautiful. My administration's not allowed to use the word coal. They have to say clean, beautiful coal. We've given it a new name. It's a three-name deal. Even semiconductor manufacturing is rapidly returning to the United States. NVIDIA and TSMC have just produced the first state-of-the-art Blackwell chip that was 100% made in the USA. In fact, Jensen, who's an incredible guy, he might be here. I don't even know. Is Jensen here? I think he's around. Somebody said he's here. How is he? Pretty good, right? Got a chip that's like 10 years advanced, but he's great. And they're all, building now. They're building tremendous plants in the United States, Arizona, Texas, all over. We're going to have a big portion of the chip market just in a very short period of time. But these tremendous strides are also creating great jobs for our citizens. 1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today than when I took office 9 months ago. Think of that. Almost 2 million people more American workers. Nobody's ever had numbers like that. And those numbers are going to get much bigger, much better than that when we open these plants that are being built all over, the AI plants. I've never seen plants this big. I built shopping centers. I built a lot of things. But if you spend $250, $300 million, you can build a big shopping center. These people are spending $50 billion to build a building. And I say, what's your product? Information. I said, well, good luck. That's a lot of information you're going to have. I've done one of the things that I'm most proud of, because I thought of it like every country. Our electricity production, our energy production is not, it's not. Nobody ever saw this kind of a revolution with the AI. And what they need more than anything is electricity. So if a country was able to do that, it would be, pretty unusual. It would be very hard, maybe you could say impossible. So I came up with a concept. When they build a massive plant, sometimes the size of Manhattan, think of that, the size of Manhattan, these plants are the biggest. I've never seen anything like it, actually. Nobody has. There's never been anything like it. But I let them build their own electricity generating plants with it. So they're building their own electric. They're sort of becoming an electric producing company in addition to all of the other things that they produce, including information. And what they're able to do is start immediately. We're giving them very fast permits. We're no longer having them wait for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years prior to rejection. They'd go 15 years and then they'd get a vote, a rejection. And by that time, their concepts were old and obsolete anyway. So, it's terrible. And we're getting it done rapidly, literally rapidly. And they're coming up with electric generating plants, the likes of which nobody has seen. The companies are standard companies that do electricity and create power companies. They've never seen anything like it, because we have a level of genius, a level of people that are designing things that nobody's ever seen before, that produces vast amounts of electricity for their plant. And if they have extra electricity, they sell it back into the grid. So they really, it's really been amazing. And it allows people to start building immediately, and they can't blame the government. They won't blame me because I didn't produce enough out of the grid that's 200 years old. So we have more people now working than at any time in the history of our country. We've sort of just begun. It's hard to believe, actually, if you knew where we were 2 years ago. All of this is incredible news for Americans and for nations around the globe, and it is for South Korea, because we're partners. We're serious partners. We're wedded, and we have a very special relationship, a special bond. In fact, we're working with you on shipbuilding, where you're going to come in. We were the #1 in the world during World War II. We produced a ship a day. Can you believe it? Tankers and freighters and this, a ship a day. And today we're not really building ships, and we're going to start, and we're going to have a very thriving shipbuilding industry, and we're working it with South Korea very much so. In fact, some of the people in this room, they bought the Philadelphia shipyard. I think it's going to be one of the most successful yards in the world, anywhere in the world. It's great. It's known for incredible production years ago, and sort of through bad management or bad thinking by people that were prior to me. I mean, you have to blame the president. You can give the president credit or blame the president, but I blame the president. They allowed the shipbuilding industry to go away, essentially, in our country. We're going to bring it back very, very powerfully. When America thrives, our partners thrive, and our alliances thrive with all of the countries. The Indo-Pacific thrives, and that's good for all of us, and the entire world becomes safer and wealthy and greater than ever before. We get along with a lot of countries. We solved a lot of wars and a lot of problems, and that's all good for all of us. The extraordinary American turnaround that I've just described has been achieved not by just continuing business as usual back in Washington. If I didn't win the election, and we won it in a landslide, we won by tremendous numbers. I had a whole thing too big, you have to say, too big to rig. We didn't want any rigging. We had these great polls going in. I said, don't believe the polls. Pretend we're 1 point down. Always assume we're 1 point down, and everybody voted. We won in a landslide. We won all 7 swing states. You have to win the swing states, and we won all 7, which is something that rarely happens. But to win the popular vote by millions, we won everything you can win. The Electoral College by a tremendous amount. We won in counties. They have counties, thousands of counties, and we were 2,700 compared to 525 actually. So think of that. We were 2,750 compared to 525. And that's why the map shows all red. Red being Republican, not something else. Red being Republican. Only a few people understand that one. My administration has rejected the old model of incompetent government that punished success and rewarded failure and made building anything almost impossible. When you come into our country, and many of you are doing that, but when you come into America, you're going to get service like you've never seen before. Quick permits, and we want safety, we want great environmental, we want everything good, but it's going to go quickly. We're rewarding those who build and create and hire and invest in the USA, and we're making America the best place on earth to do business, and that's what it's become very quickly. We have some wonderful people. Lee Zeldin at Environmental, he's incredible. He gets the right result quickly, and he makes sure that people do the right thing. But we will have the best tax rates, the lowest energy costs. We have the lowest energy. We have tremendous amounts of energy, more than anybody else. We have the most oil and gas and coal, more than any other nation on earth. So that's a big advantage that we have over others. We have the lowest regulatory burden. In my first term, we cut more regulations than any other administration in history, and we're going to do about the same level right now or more if we can. The most advanced technology and the fairest trade deals anywhere in the world. And for decades before I took office, our country was run by legions of bureaucrats who were always looking for a reason to say no. Why? How can we say no? They wanted to say no. They thought that was their job, and it's really just the opposite. We work to say yes. So now we have a president in the White House who cuts through the red tape and excuses. We don't stand for excuses, and says yes to big ideas and bold initiatives and grand ambitions so that America can have great industries, great dreams, and to be the greatest nation on earth, which is where we are now, actually, in a very short period of time. We're rebuilding things that are incredible. We have the strongest military in the world. We have the best equipment. We have the best manufacturers of equipment. And South Korea is buying a lot of our weapons. We make the best. We have the planes and just about everything other than ships. So we'll be there very shortly with ships too. But the only reason it's not ships, because, I don't know, for some reason they stopped doing that. I guess they went on to other businesses. But there are some basics in life, and one of the things you need is ships. I always say you need steel, you need aluminum, you need this. There are things you don't need. A lot of things that a country doesn't need them, but things you need steel. Got to have steel, and we're redoing our steel, and some of the people in this room are very involved in that. We're redoing our industry. We're starting to produce large amounts of steel, massive amounts of steel. We'll be right at the top in a very short period of time. The mills are opening again, and they're opening up big. And again, it's national security, and it's because of tariffs. We're reclaiming our heritage as a nation of builders and doers, and we're pioneers in a sense, but we're really doing it again, but we're doing it even better than we did the first time, which is the first couple of 100 years. And we're pursuing this vision with unrelenting drive and really unprecedented success. In July, I proudly sounded law. It was very important. I went into the archives. We looked at every possible thing you could look at, and I signed into law the largest tax cuts in American history. And as you remember, in my first term, we cut taxes from 39% down to 21%. And now we've done even better than that, putting more money in the pockets of American families that make up the largest consumer market on earth. For businesses and manufacturers like those in this room, our tax law includes 100% expensing for all new factories, plants, and equipment. So that means you can write everything off in the first year. So that's like we had in the first, except this goes for a period of 10 years. Whereas the other was over a much shorter period of time. And I actually think that we had such tremendous success. I always said that was the single most important thing, the expensing, the one-year expensing. Upon taking office, I signed executive orders that require that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations have to be eliminated. I did that in the first term, too, and it worked. So if you want a new regulation, you have to get rid of 10, and already we're exceeding that limit, reaching closer to 30 to 1. Our people have done that, our great secretaries and other people in the administration. So we've been actually at a level where we sign in a new regulation, they get rid of 30 old. We're sort of cleaning up the books because many of these regulations are obsolete, they don't belong. And some were so horrible, they were obsolete, but they really stopped projects from being built, and we're getting rid of all of them. We've pretty much done that. We have streamlined permitting for all new energy and mining projects. It used to take decades for an administration to get something approved, and now it's a process that will take, generally speaking, less than 28 days. In addition, across government, we're guaranteeing a rapid and expedited regulatory review for all new projects in the United States, and that's worth billions and billions of dollars to industry. You spent more money on trying to get something approved than you do in building the plant itself. You know, in Louisiana, my first term, there were 2 plants, and one was financed by a tremendous group of Japanese investors, and it was about $16 billion, LNG plants. Another one was financed by people from South Korea and others. LNG, both of them, massive LNG. They were in the review process. One was 15 years, one was 16 or 17 years, and they were then told, forget it, we're not going to get it approved. So I came into government, I heard about it, and I love Louisiana. We did very well there. We did well in just about all the states, but we did really well in Louisiana. And so I got involved. The one plant that was in for almost 15 years, I got it approved in one day. One day. In fact, when we called the people to say that they got approved, they didn't know what the hell we were talking about. They said, you got it approved. We sort of gave up on it. I said, no, you don't have to give up. We got it approved. The other one took me a little bit longer. I didn't do as good a job. It took me 1 week. And they got approved, and they got built. They're massive plants, and they're doing unbelievably. They're like setting records, LNG, big. It's like the Empire State Building lying on its side. And all I know is I looked at it. I said, what kind of a building is that? All it's got is pipes going back and forth. I never saw anything like it. But whatever it is, it works. And they've been very, very successful. But think of it, 14 and 15 years, and I got one approved in 1 day and one approved in 1 week, and they've been doing great, and they've been good for the environment. I've shrunk the size of government for the first time in many years since January. 100,000 bureaucrats have left the federal payroll. You've probably seen that. So we're creating real jobs. We're getting rid of wasteful jobs. Government spending is down 2.5% this quarter compared to 1 year ago. It was going through the roof in the previous administration. And in stark contrast to 4 years ago. I mean, if you look, 100% of all new jobs created in America under my administration have been created by the private sector. Think of that. The government created no new jobs. The private sector created the record number of jobs that we're talking about. That's a country. That's really a success. It's easy to create government jobs. I could say, add a lot of people to your payrolls. I can fake up the numbers if I want, but that's not the way you build a great country. You don't do that here, and that's not the way. But it's a good way to show good numbers, I'll tell you. You just tell everybody, hire a lot of people. That's what they used to do under the Biden administration under Barack Hussein Obama, you had, they'd say hire a lot of people so we can make our numbers look good. I do the opposite. And we have real numbers. These are real numbers. There's truly no better time to invest in the USA. The results speak for themselves. Since the election, TSMC has pledged to invest $100 billion in the United States. So they're coming in from Taiwan. We have tremendous numbers of companies coming from Taiwan and building in the U.S. Apple, $600 billion investment. Hyundai, $26 billion. Micron, $200 billion. SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle, over $500 billion. Amazon, $35 billion. Pfizer, $70 billion. Jera, $200 billion. Google, $25 billion. NVIDIA, $500 billion. Genentech, $50 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $57. We're bringing back all of our pharmaceutical business. IBM, $150 billion. AstraZeneca, $50 billion, among many others, many others, too many to talk about. But one of the most significant factors in this remarkable surge of new investment has been my transformation of trade policy. 8 years ago, I came to this very summit. I was here. Does anybody remember? I don't know. I remember. Does anybody remember what I said? Yeah, there's a few hands up there. It must have been a great speech. 3 people. It's not too many people. But there's no reason to, because you saw whatever I said, I did. And for the first time, I laid out the principle that economic security is national security. Economic security, that's for South Korea, that's for any country. But economic security is, in fact, national security. I made the case that the global trading system was broken and in urgent need of reform, had to be fixed. The system had been exploited by countries that broke the rules at the expense of countries that followed the rules to a T, and asked the nations of APEC to be our partners in making the system fair and more sustainable for all of us. And we all work together, the APEC nations. 8 years later, as I'm back here in Asia, and I'm pleased to say that the positive vision for revolutionary reform I laid out, it seems like a long time ago, is now a reality. What really seems amazing is that we did all these things. We stopped a lot of wars. We did so many different things, made our country strong. Thank you. Thank you. And the campaign seemed like so long ago. And I was reading something today in one of the journals, and they said, can you believe it? 1 year ago, I was campaigning to win. Think of that. It was about a week. In a week, it'll be November 5th. And November 5th was the election. I said, can you imagine that? Here I am, president. We've done so many different things, economically, militarily, peace-wise, peace through strength. And yet, 1 year ago, it's not long ago, I was campaigning. We didn't win. We were campaigning, and then we had the election, and we had a great election. And the spirit in our country is like incredible if you compare that. We lost a lot of spirit in our country. Our country is depressed. They were very depressed, and they had a right to be. But around the world, we're signing one trade deal after another to balance our relationships on the basis of reciprocity. Very important word. On this trip alone, I've signed groundbreaking agreements with Malaysia, Cambodia, Japan. Our deal with the Republic of Korea will be finalized very soon, like moments or very shortly thereafter. These agreements will be incredible victories for all of us, because everyone is better off when we have stable partnerships, not plagued by chronic problems and imbalances. Probably you know that President Xi of China is coming tomorrow here, and we're going to be, I hope, making a deal. I think we're going to have a deal. I think it'll be a good deal for both. And that's really a great result. That's better than fighting and going through all sorts of problems and, no reason for it. I think it's going to be a great deal for both, so I'll be meeting him tomorrow. A lot of people are interested. They're also interested in what we're doing, but they're interested in that. I can tell you a lot. The world is watching, and I think we'll have something that's very exciting for everybody, and that's also good for South Korea. It's good for all nations. We're ending gaping trade deficits, unfair trade barriers to market access, insecure supply chains, weak, pathetic supply chains, and much, much more. We had such bad supply chains under the last administration. It was embarrassing. And we're entering a new era of trade that truly works for both sides. Got to work for everybody. You know, deals have to be good for everybody. I've heard that all the time, and I never really believed it, I'll be honest. I said, if you make a great deal. The best deals are deals that work for everybody, especially when you're talking about nations. You know, when you're talking about nations, it really is a little bit different than you're doing a business deal and you want to just rip their hearts out, right? These guys know what I mean. They ripped out so many hearts. But when you have nations, it's a little bit different, you know? You gotta all balance out a little bit. When I announced reciprocal tariffs last April, some people thought it was wonderful and others really weren't so sure. They weren't sure. They didn't understand tariffs because tariffs were used against us. We didn't use tariffs stupidly. And we do now. National security. This week we proved once and for all that few critics, there were no critics left. The only critics are people that took advantage of us for many years, and now they're not able to do that. The deals we're signing with our friends and partners are making our alliances closer and stronger than ever before, and they respect us because it was so foolish. The people that ran our country were so foolish. With these agreements, our nations will extend our vital security alliances into the realm of economic security for the first time ever. We're forging new partnerships on strategically important industries like shipbuilding, energy, semiconductors, critical minerals, and, very important pharmaceuticals. We learned that during COVID. We had to rely on other countries to give us pharmaceuticals. You can't do that. You have to, certain industries you want to have there. You want to have your medicines made ideally in your own country. Many of our agreements also include deepening collaboration of industries of the future, such as nuclear, quantum, artificial intelligence, where America is number one by a lot. Actually, we're really number one by a lot. We're number one in military consequence. We're number one in military, in the quality of the weapons. That's why everyone wants to buy for us. I'll tell you what we have a long lead on is submarines, nuclear submarines. We are so far advanced that by perhaps 20, 25 years. We're 25 years ahead of any competition. And not only are the tariffs strengthening our alliances, they're also bringing peace to the world. On Sunday in Malaysia, we signed the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords, ending forever the war between Cambodia and Thailand. Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's interesting. We were making trade deals with Cambodia and with Thailand, and I sort of watch what I do. I don't go to the beach and sleep all day. I like to watch. And I see Cambodia, Thailand, among many other nations. And this is true for numerous other deals too. But I see Cambodia, Thailand, and I read a front page story about the fact that there were thousands of dead people along the border. And they fought for a long time. And I said, wait a minute, we're making deals? And they're starting a war? They were just starting, and it was vicious. Thousands of people were killed along the border, their two borders. And I said, let's call the head. I didn't know the heads of either one. I called them. They were both great people and sort of reasonable. I said, listen, you want a trade deal? We're not going to make a deal with you if you're going to be in war. Then I called Cambodia. I called Thailand. I called Cambodia, back and forth. And after about 2 days, we ended up with the help of Malaysia. Malaysia was like a mediator, and we used a beautiful facility in Malaysia because it was too hot. And I don't mean hot weather-wise. I mean it was hot. It was too hot with bullets flying all over the place. And Malaysia was fantastic, and they helped implement it. The prime minister was great guy. Just left him. And within 2 days, we signed a deal. And the two people came in. They were like best friends. It was a beautiful thing to see. We saved, probably millions of lives. They've had a tempestuous relationship I said, for how many years? 500 years. I said, that's a long time. That's a long time. But we think this is going to be, hopefully, I use the word everlasting. Same thing in the Middle East. We hope it's going to be everlasting peace. They've never had peace. They've 3,000 years, and we signed in the Middle East. But I've ended 8 wars in 8 months, and in many instances, trade has played a big part in getting those those wars end, and on top of it all, tariffs now projected to reduce our deficit by $4 trillion over the next 10 years, and I think actually much more than that. That's national security, because you can't have deficits and you can't have debt all over the place. And it stops inflation and strengthening the dollar and ultimately balancing our federal budget, which I think we're going to do very quickly, only because of our policy of fair tariffs. And for any company that does not wish to pay the tariff, I say, you know, you could build your factory in America. If you build your factory in America, there is zero tariffs. But, you know, again, going back to the wars, it's so important. If you look at India and Pakistan, so I'm doing a trade deal with India, and I have great respect and love. As you know, for Prime Minister Modi, we have a great relationship. Likewise, the Prime Minister of Pakistan is a great guy, and the Field Marshal, they have a Field Marshal. You know why he's a Field Marshal? He's a great fighter. He really is. He's a great guy, too. And so I know them all. And I'm reading that 7 planes were shot down. They're going at it, and they're really starting to go. And it's a big thing. These are 2 nuclear nations, and they're really going at it. And I called Prime Minister Modi. I said, we can't make a trade deal with you. No, we must make a trade deal. I said, no, we can't. You're starting a war with Pakistan. We're not going to do it. And then I called Pakistan. I said, we're not going to do trade with you because you're fighting with India. And, you know, 2 nuclear nations. And they said, no, you should let us fight. They both said that. You know, they're warring. They're strong people, I'll tell you what. Prime Minister Modi is the nicest looking guy. He says, and he looks like you'd like to have your father, like, he's a killer. He's tough as hell. No, we will fight. I said, whoa, this is the same man that I know. But after a little while, and they're good people, and after literally 2 days, they called up and they said, we understand, and they stopped fighting. How is that? Isn't that amazing? Now, you think Biden would have done that? I don't think so. Most people wouldn't have thought of it, but, you know, they wouldn't have thought of it. No, but here we are, we're doing deals. So you add an extra sentence, and you say you have to stop shooting at each other. 7 planes were shot down. You have to stop the war. And they stopped the war. And if it weren't for the tariffs, I said I was going to put 250% tariffs on each country, which means that you'll never do business. In other words, there's nothing you can sell for 250%. That means that's a nice way of saying we don't want to do business with you. You don't have to say that, because that's a nasty, we don't want to do business. No. You say we're going to put 250% tariffs if you don't stop the war. And they understood that, and within 48 hours we had no war, no people killed. I mean, it's makes me feel so good. It's we saved millions and millions of lives with all of them. Azerbaijan. If you look at just take a look at that one. That was going on for, I think, 38 years, right? And President Putin called me. He said, "It's amazing. It's amazing. We couldn't get that war stopped. 38 years it went on, millions of people killed, and we got it done." And the 2 countries came in, and they were in the White House, and they started off here. And they got closer, 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 closer. After an hour, they were hugging each other in peace. It was amazing, actually. It was beautiful to see 2 very good countries, 2 very good leaders. One was there for 22 years, one was there for 7. And they both said, my entire political life, all I did was shoot people on the other side. And we got it closed up. And we did that 8 times. The only one I didn't do is Russia, Ukraine, but that'll get done too. That'll get done. I thought that was going to be an easy one because of my relationship with President Putin. He turned out to be a little different, but I think it'll get done. It's would have never started if I were president. That war would have never, ever started. So we've used trade to create peace in a lot of different locations. We also solved the war in Africa, Congo, Republic of Congo, and Rwanda. That was much smaller to do with trade, more to do with common sense. They were fighting for years. 10 million people were dead, and we got that one done too. So we did a lot of them. We did 8 in 8 months, and I think the other one's going to come along. I really think so. I thought that would have been one of the easier ones. Who would have thought we created peace in the Middle East but didn't get Russia and Ukraine? Because peace in the Middle East was undoable. They're looking, they're shaking their heads. It was undoable. We got it done. 3,000 years, okay? They never had peace. They never had anything like it. And we have all countries signed up, and the level of spirit and everything, I think it's gonna hold for a long time, hopefully forever. Hopefully that's an everlasting one too. So in conclusion, at some point in your careers, every great business person and CEO in this room today has faced critics who said reform, innovation, and bold action would only lead to a total disaster, but none of us would be here if we had listened to the small minds with no vision. These are small minds with no vision. They had no understanding of success. They had no understanding of life and death. True success comes from having the confidence and the courage to prove the doubters wrong. And oftentimes you'll go the opposite way of almost everybody, and you'll be the one that's right, and the others will be the one that's wrong. And that's where you have your greatest successes. And that's what America and our Indo-Pacific partners really are doing this week, and what our businesses and entrepreneurs do each and every day. That's what you do, the most successful people in the world. Together we're solving the challenges that no one before us has ever been able to solve, and we're forging a free and open Indo-Pacific, and for all of the people, we're creating a future of dignity and security, prosperity and pride. From the rolling hills of San Francisco to the gleaming streets of Seoul, from the bustling factories of Toledo, Ohio, to the bright lights of Tokyo, from Pittsburgh to Palawan, from Boston to Bangkok, from Detroit to Da Nang, and from Cleveland to right here in Gwangju. Nice place. Did I do good with that one? Did I do okay? Gwangju. Good, beautiful place, by the way. We're strengthening old friendships, forging new bonds, building new factories, pioneering new industries, and creating a dramatically better world for our children and for generations to come. Together we will build a future of strong, independent nations on both sides of the vast ocean, joined by our common interests, united by common values, and reaching constantly toward a richer, safer, and more peaceful Pacific with fairness, persistence, and common sense. That's such an important two words. We will build together, we will trade together, we will prosper together, we will thrive together, and above all, we will win together like never before. We're going to have an incredible relationship together for generations to come. And I just want to thank everybody in the room. I know so many of you. You're incredible people. God bless you. God bless the nations of this great region, and God bless America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Paparo, okay, who is blessed to be here today. I don't know where he went. Somewhere he's in the back, hiding. Okay, on behalf of him, we're blessed to honor and a privilege and welcome another great leader here this afternoon. All right, he's a true patriot. I can stop right there, but I'm not going to. All right, he is a proven war fighter, been downrange, has served in the cloth, and done the business. He has the courage and the strength to restore the warrior ethos in our formations, to rebuild our military in credible and lethal ways in order to deter our adversaries should they choose to challenge American resolve and challenge the things that we hold dear in terms of our values. He is relentless in his efforts, okay, inspiring. He enables our business of securing a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and I would dare say that his efforts are driving peace, security, and prosperity along with the president around the globe. It is tangible. Ladies and gentlemen, warfighters, please join me in welcoming our Secretary of War, the Honorable Pete Hegseth.
As the President was you think I'd have it? Well, thank you for that introduction. There we go. Does that work? There we go. Thank you, General, for that introduction. Appreciate it. Admiral Paparo, thank you for your leadership out here. Leadership on the front lines. That's what this truly is. That's where you are. You're a long way from home. You're away from your community. You're away from your families, some ways with your families, those you love, but you are on the front lines for your country. There's just no doubt about it. I get a chance alongside the President to sort of, as the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs puts it, you lay it out on the whole globe on one sheet of paper, and you look at the threats that we face and what we are up against. And there's no doubt we're in a moment where we have to be prepared. And, you know, folks have pointed to the renaming of our department. It wasn't just about names. It wasn't about just going back to the War Department. It was that we truly believe in peace. And if you truly believe in peace, and we have a peace president, then you have to be prepared to wage war. You have to be, not talk about it, not talk about defending, but decisively close with and destroy the enemy and win on behalf of your nation. Because you could be called upon to do it. Hopefully you're not. Hopefully we're not. But we better be prepared to on behalf of our nation. And when we look prepared, and we are prepared, then our adversaries make different choices. And they decide that today is not the day. And you are in one of the most strategically significant places on planet Earth when it pertains to that. And you're standing alongside our partners here in the Japanese Defense Forces that are, as was mentioned, increasingly capable in what they can do. And this headquarters here is a part of ensuring that other allies and partners and the Chinese specifically understand the capabilities of this alliance. Again, not because we want conflict. It's not my job to saber rattle and look for conflicts to be had. No, the contrary. We seek peace, but we will be strong in that pursuit. And that deterrence requires that type of warfighting capability, as was mentioned. And that's why, from day one, the President's job, as he said to me, he told me a couple things. First thing he said, when he offered me the job, he's like, Pete, you're going to have to be tough as shit. He was correct. I will confirm that. But then he also looked at me and said, get our department back to warfighting. Turn it back to the warriors. And that's been our job from the beginning. Restore the warrior ethos. A lot of that is common sense. I'm looking out at Americans here who've been doing that for a long time. right? It's discipline, it's standards, it's accountability, it's readiness, it's training, and anything that blocks those things is not worth your time. Empowering leaders to enforce those standards and do that training. All the way up and down the chain. I gave a speech, some of you may have seen it, to a few generals and senior enlisted, and some said, well, what are you doing talking about haircuts and beards? It's not about beards and haircuts. The point is, when you let little things go inside any organization, you start to erode the standards across the force, up and down the chain. So by enforcing small things, it's like the broken windows theory of policing that was famously used in New York City. When you get rid of the squeegee men and you don't let people jump the turnstiles, pretty soon you're enforcing the small things and the culture of criminality erodes. Same thing inside our formations. We've all seen it. I was a platoon leader. You know when you let one of your squads or one of your teams or a part of your formation start to slide or someone's not enforcing standards. You want to live inside a formation where you're empowered to enforce those standards because there's one standard across the force. And that's why it was so dangerous when phrases like, our diversity is our strength were peddled as the most important thing in our military. I look out at this group and I see a lot of diverse faces, and that's a beautiful thing. Black, white, everything in between, rich, poor, male, female, city kids, country bumpkins, all of us. But when you're wearing that uniform, none of that matters because your strength is your shared purpose. Your strength is the unity of our mission. Your strength is the oath you swore to the Constitution. Your strength is the capability of what you can do, what you put in the air, what you put on the ground, the dilemmas you create for the enemy. As the president said, we're back to merit-based, colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based. And when that's the case, leaders can enforce, everyone knows what the standard looks like, and you revive that warrior ethos where it's back to basics. It's really just common sense stuff, and we lost our way on some of those things. We've got leadership now that's recharting that course. We're also rebuilding our military, making sure you have the very best at your fingertips. We're going to be the most lethal because obviously a lot of it has to do with platforms and planes and ships and missiles and long-range fires and drones and hypersonics and subs and all the things you see, but it's the capabilities of all of you that employ that sophistication at the decisive moment. That's rebuilding our military. That's making sure you got the money to train, the ability, the clarity about your mission in order to employ all those things. So that's rebuilding the military. Restore your warrior ethos, rebuild the military, and reestablish deterrence. You see, you can be strong, but if you don't use that force wisely, or you don't use it at the necessary moments, your enemies might decide, well, they don't think twice, they act. And so what you saw in Afghanistan with the debacle of that withdrawal, what we saw on October 7th against one of our allies, what you saw in the war in Ukraine, was the perception that America wasn't quite up to what it should have been in the past. And the President Trump gave me the assignment along with the entire team, and it all comes from the top, from the President, that we're going to reestablish that deterrence. So if you look at the actions we've taken, take the Houthis, for example, the campaign that existed there, Operation Rough Rider. The principle of freedom of navigation of the seas has long been something our Navy, our Air Force enforces. You don't shoot at our ships. Pirates don't set the terms. But if you allow that to erode, suddenly a terrorist organization is shooting at our ships and they're shutting down key shipping lanes. The President said no longer. So they found out about American power until they cried uncle and said, we're not going to shoot at your ships anymore. Narrow mission. We're not trying to nation build inside Yemen. And regime change of the Houthis. It's, hey, we've got power, we're going to use it, we're going to change the dynamic. Same with Operation Midnight Hammer. How many presidents have said that Iran can't have a nuclear bomb? Almost every single one. How many acted on it? President Trump, alongside our allies in Israel, to say only one country in the world, ours, has the ability to go 37 hours back and forth with 7 B-2s, be completely undetected, drop the world's most powerful bombs on exactly in the right location to dismantle a vicious adversary's nuclear capabilities. That's reestablishing deterrence. It's locking down our southwest border. You can't let 20 million people into your country and you don't know where they're coming from and not call that an invasion. By locking that down, you're recognizing Our country comes first and our borders matter, reestablishing deterrence. We fought for 20 years Islamist enemies around the globe. A lot of you did. I was there. And there was a lot of goodness in what was accomplished by our troops. Ultimately, we have other entities in our hemisphere that have been poisoning America's young people and Americans for far too long. Drug cartels, narco-terrorists. They go by different names, but they're basically the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere. They operate in cartels that poison the American people and bring violence to our streets. President Trump has said we're going to untie the hands of our military and make sure they understand there's a new dynamic. You see, we fight the same way for years and years and wonder why it never ends. We used to joke about the Iraqi catch and release program when I was a platoon leader there. You'd roll up insurgents on the battlefield and then hand them in, and then 3 days later they're back on the battlefield fighting you again. That doesn't mean you take justice into your own hands. It just means you be smart about how you conduct the fight. So if you're trying to get rid of narco-terrorists and you've spent 20 years releasing and you believe they're an enemy of the American people, an imminent threat to the safety of the American people, then taking that direct action, treating them like the narco-terrorists there are, is meant to change that dynamic. Again, reestablishing deterrence. So when America sees the most powerful, the most lethal, the most capable force on planet Earth, which you are, and then they see a president willing to put America first, apply peace through strength, and apply common sense, then they start to understand that the enemies of America are on notice, and the allies of America are emboldened, like the allies we have right here in this theater. Allies that many of which I'll see over the next couple of days as we continue to travel. And I spend a lot of time drinking a lot of coffee, meeting with foreign leaders. And that's fine, they're wonderful people. But not as wonderful as all of you. That's right. It's the best part of the job. Because I look out at these eyes, and these eyes are the eyes of deterrence. You're my neighbors. I was in your spot not that long ago. I understand the uncertainty of an order and how long I'll be there. What's my mission? What's the clarity? What does the future look like? We're trying to provide that clarity, embolden you to have that bold American spirit, puff your chest out a little bit more and say, hey, we know why we're here. We know what we're doing. We have the tools we need to get it done. We got a president who's going to chart the course. And ultimately, what I always wanted when I was a platoon leader, what I wanted in combat or in a risky situation was to know that my leaders had my back. That's it. You do difficult things, sometimes in the dead of night, with not all the resources you need or not enough sleep, and where life or death is at stake. You make mistakes. I wanted to know when I took those risks that my commander, my first-line leader, battalion commander, brigade commander, division commander, pick air wing commander, you name it, would ultimately have my back in that pursuit. And what I always want to tell our brave troops, our amazing warriors, is President Trump has your back. I watch it every day. I wish every part of the American public would have a chance to watch him in the Oval Office or on phone calls with foreign leaders. His instinct is America first. His instinct is to back up Americans doing those difficult things because he loves you. He loves the country. I love you. We appreciate you. We stand beside you. We're here to serve you. That's what this is. This is all service. You could be doing a lot of other things. You decided to give the prime of your life to a bad haircut. No, I'm just kidding. I had one for a long time. The prime of your life to something bigger than yourself. To raising your right hand and doing something difficult. Being held to a higher standard. Be proud of that. You should be. You're the real 1%. I've spent a lot of time with folks that, society says are the 1%ers, the elite. No. The president says this and he's right. You are. With what you're willing to do, what you're willing to endure, what you're willing to undertake, where you're willing to deploy. That's right here. That's this mission. So thank you for everything you do. It's an honor to be here with our entire team. Our job in the Pentagon is to work tirelessly to get you what you need. We don't do anything. We talk. But if we do our job right, we're empowering senior leaders to allow you to do your job right, to untie your hands, to give decision-making further to those that need to be making those decisions on behalf of the American people. And then our adversaries have to think twice and say, today is not the day. Thank you for everything you do. Give my best to your families. Tell them how much we appreciate them and what they give, the sacrifices they give. And we will continue to stand alongside you as we defend our great country. God bless you all. Thank you.